floor over to Chris Palega. He has some updates and topics for discussion, and we'll lead off with some HIPAA compliance conversation. Chris?
Thank you very much. A few months ago, we as a local council began talking about using AI as a note taker in this Zoom meeting. I've been hosting our local council Zoom meetings. We decided to give it a try just so that we could try to get really good, accurate notes without having to, invest a lot of time in doing it. Shortly thereafter, at our next meeting, our regional, I believe it was our regional deputy director, shared with us a disclaimer in the chat at the beginning of the meeting. The disclaimer basically was discussing that if we're going to be using third-party software or AI like this, that we're kind of on our own as far as HIPAA goes. We had been told when I initially joined the council many years ago that we were, obligated to be actually under the control of HIPAA. It's what they call a covered entity for HIPAA, right? So this kind of started a discussion. I can certainly understand OPWD not wanting to participate in HIPAA compliance for some members' third-party software, but at the same time, I felt like if we were, subject to HIPAA because of our relationship with OPWD, that they, should be willing to at least have a discussion with us, help us understand the exposure, and perhaps even some advice on how to manage that exposure. We had a good discussion about it on the local level with our local RFO team and our council. And it also started getting me thinking, what is the relationship that is established our group as a covered entity, our local councils and our committees. And I had sent some slides in, and are those available? I can certainly work without them. There you go. Thank you very much. I'm going to just get a quick drink here. So just as a little bit of a review, a HIPAA covered entity is either a healthcare provider, a health plan, or healthcare clearinghouse. And sorry for not citing this. This is off the HHS website. So it is the best information we have available. Could I have the next slide, please? So when thinking through this, it was really clear in my mind. And again, I'm going to just say I'm not a lawyer. I didn't consult a lawyer about this, but I am hoping to do that today. It appeared to me that as a standalone entity, neither our local councils nor our statewide committee fell under the auspices of HIPAA. We are not a healthcare provider. We're not a health plan. We're not a healthcare clearinghouse. Could I have the next slide, please? I did, do a little bit looking around, and what I did find is a specific instance where state statute, in this case, public officers law, did establish, or at least it appears to me, not being a lawyer, to establish a relationship, a nexus, if you will, between us as volunteers and the state. In this particular instance, this particular statute talks about the responsibility of the state should we create an error or omission of unintended, origins, that the state is responsible for defending us and helping us through that entire process. So there are obviously times when we are expressly brought in under the umbrella of this state, but this doesn't seem to apply in my mind to create a nexus between our groups and HIPAA through our relationship with OPWD. So what I'm hoping to try to first understand from Council's office is what are the statutes or regulations that establish the local FSS Advisory Councils and the Committee on FSS as HIPAA covered entities, and hoping at this point that Council's office might comment.
Yeah, Chris, this is Eileen Haynes, and our Deputy Counsel, Ari Masio, is also in the room, but so I can start this off. We recognize the I guess confusion, given the last slide, whether the FSS committee falls within any of those definitions of covered entities. What we've discovered is that the state has, or at least OPWDD, has always considered the members of FSS, both the statewide committee and the local councils, to be volunteers of OPWDD. And as a result, and as a result of that, you would be subject to HIPAA. And we think that this is accurate given the kind of rules of the local councils, both in terms of the RFP process and in terms of the site visits and those kinds of roles that the councils have taken on, which are really, subsets of roles OPWDD would normally do. So in that sense, we would consider you to be volunteers and therefore subject to HIPAA. As for whether or not you would be defended under the public officers law, I really would have to look into that more and probably discuss it with some other folks. As a volunteer, it seems that you would be covered as under the public officers law, but I would just need to confirm that. And as for the HIPAA, the AI issue, I realize that the councils and the statewide committee really probably haven't had any kind of training or presentation on HIPAA, and we'd be happy to talk to the statewide chairs about getting some kind of presentation together for the next meeting. We could put that together. My understanding, you're using AI to take notes, is that right? And to record the meetings that you have.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about some great exposure from doing it. We explicitly try to not talk, and actually I can't even recall us sharing PHI. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of easy ways to minimize exposure. And at this point, our council, we really don't have a need to be sharing PHI. I mean, we know about each other's families, but I mean, that's getting pretty nitpicky, right? So, I mean, that's not the biggest concern. The larger concern is actually understanding the legal nexus that supports it. I understand that this is a policy or a regulation that OPW has long held, and it's clear from the history of the documentation that's been shared with me that that's always been assumed, right? The thing about my understanding of HIPAA is that HIPAA can't be altered or added to or subtracted from by state regulation and rule, right? So in my mind, again, not being a lawyer, that tells me that if there's some nexus that's created between me as a non-HIPAA entity and a HIPAA entity that creates a need for me to be falling under that umbrella, that I would be looking for that in federal statute, not in state statute or in regulation, administrative regulation. I'm wondering what you if you have any opinion or comment on that idea.
Yeah, so HIPAA is really a floor. It's really like the minimum privacy that entities must enact. States are always able to become more restrictive, and we actually have the mental hygiene law, section 33, which is actually a little more restrictive than HIPAA is, and that's perfectly presentable or allowed under federal law as well as state law. As for the, I can get you the sites for what we would consider a volunteer. I don't have that with me right now, but I can certainly get that to you, and we could send that through the statewide chairs to disseminate.
Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation because, like I say, I in my mind, I'm looking for a more explicit nexus, I guess, and try to understand. And of course, if you're talking about Section 33 of the mental hygiene law, there's certainly no issue with that. I guess the only issue would be that we would like to have, or at least I would like to have, because I like to play by the rules, a very clear understanding of what these rules are, how they're interpreted, how they're implemented, and so on and so forth, right? So I appreciate that conversation. If we could move past the next two slides, the last slide, I'd appreciate that. And the next one, please. So I guess I just kind of put down a few ideas that if we are in fact considered employees, it would be, in my mind, helpful to be treated as other employees are. And I'm not sure if we are or not at this point. It's seemingly to me like we may not be, given that, I've had no HIPAA training from anyone around this or any discussions, right? So there's a couple of things that came to my mind as far as a request for support, so that we can, in fact, follow the rules as they are existing. We're wondering, I am wondering about a clear understanding of the members' rights, responsibilities, and redress under applicable law and regulation to include written guidance. Certainly, I mean, the first thing that I understand about HIPAA is that when you become a covered entity, the first step is to assign a HIPAA compliance officer. So we would like assignment of and access to a HIPAA compliance office. I think certified HIPAA training and ongoing support is certainly reasonable. As I'm imagining your employees receive, it's equipment, software, training, and IT support so that we can have HIPAA compliant communications, and of course, training and support on all other applicable legal and regulatory standards. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity just to kind of open that discussion and put it out on the table, and I hope we can continue it and together develop a very clear understanding of what we're responsible for and how to best make sure that we live up to those responsibilities. Thanks very much for the time.
Certainly.